at home doing taking the precautions that you should be doing. And because of the events that has taken place throughout the whole world, definitely college has decided to record videos and send them to you guys at home so that you won't lose track on your studies, and also so that your academic year will not be disrupted. And for that, for our literature class, for this week, we are going to be working on a poem by Robert Frost, which I think all of you are very familiar with him because the first semester we have worked on one of his poems. I think you guys would remember. It's called The Road Not Taken. So this one is called Home Burial, right? And unlike The Road Not Taken, it was a poem that was written in 1914, and it is one of the longest poems by him, and also one of the most emotionally disturbing ones. So for this one, it speaks about a couple, a husband and a wife. Their child just died, so they are fighting because of the death of the child. And also, as you can notice here, it is a form of a dialogue and not just any normal dialogue. It's a very intense and emotionally charged dialogue. So for the red lines are the lines of the husband, right? And for the blue ones are the lines of the wife. As for the black ones are the narrator's part. This poem, it tackles the subject of death, grief, marriage, and love. Also for the form, if you notice, unlike The Road Not Taken, we don't have any rhyme scheme. It's free-form kind of poetry. And also, in this poem, the emphasis is all about the dialogue between the husband and the wife, and also how they manage the tension throughout the dialogue, and how a man and a woman can articulate their feelings. So before we start with the analysis, I would like you to watch a video. So in this video, we are going to see how the poem should be read, and you're going to see the tension between the husband and the wife and how they are manifesting their emotions. Zoom on the video.
Differently. In this poem, Robert Frost contrasts the grief of a husband and wife whose child has just died. My name is Öğretmen, Home Burial by Robert Frost. He saw her from the bottom of the stairs before she saw him. She was starting down, looking back over her shoulder at some view. She took a doubtful step and then undid it, to raise herself and look again. He spoke, advancing toward her. What is it you see from up there always, for I want to know? She turned and sank upon her skirts at that, and her face changed from terrified to dull. He said to gain time, what is it you see? Mounting until she cowered under him. I will find out. You must tell me, dear. She, in her place, refused him any help, with the least dipping of her neck in silence. She let him look, sure that he wouldn't see, blind creature, and while he didn't see. But at last he murmured, oh, and again, oh. What is it, what? She said. Just that I see. You don't, she challenged. Tell me what it is. The wonder is, I never noticed it from here before. I must be wanted to it, that's the reason. The little graveyard where my people are. So small when you're afraid of the whole of it, not so much larger than a bedroom, is it? There are 3 stones of slate and 1 of marble. Broad-shouldered little slab fair in the sunlight on the side hill. But we haven't to mind those. I understand, it is not the stones, but the child's mound. Don't, she cried. She drew shrinking from beneath his arm that rested on the banister and slid downstairs and turned on him with such a daunting look. He said twice over before he knew himself, can't a man speak of his own child he's lost? No, not you. Oh, where's my hat? Oh, I don't need it. I must get out of here. I must get air. I don't know rightly whether any man can. Amy, don't go with someone else this time. Tell me about it. I won't come down the stairs. He sat and fixed his chin between his fists. Amy, there's something I would like to ask you, dear. You don't know how to ask it. Help me then. Her fingers move the latch for a reply. My words are nearly always an offense. I don't know how to speak of anything so as to please you. I could be taught, I should suppose, but I don't see how. A man must partly give up being a man with women folk. We could have some arrangement by which I bind myself to keep my hands off anything special in your mind to name, though I don't let such things twixt those that love. Two that don't love can't live together without them, but two that do can't live together with them. Her fingers move the latch a little. Don't go! Don't carry it to someone else this time. Tell me about it if it's something human. Let me into your grief. I'm not so much unlike other folks as your staying apart would make me out. Give me my chance. I do think, though you overdo it a little, what was it brought you up to think of the thing to take the mother loss of your firstborn child so inconsolably in the face of love? You think his memory might be satisfied. There you go sneering now. I'm not. You make me angry. What a woman. And it's come to this. A man can't speak of his own child that's dead. You can't because you don't know how to speak. You that dumb. With your own hands, how could you? His little grave. I saw you from that very window there, making the gravel leap and leap in the air, leap up like that, and land so lightly, and roll back down the mound beside the hole. I thought, who is that man? I didn't know you. I crept up the stairs and down the stairs flood again and again. And still, your spade kept lifting. Then you came in. I heard your rumbling voice out in the kitchen, and I don't know why, but I went near to see with my own eyes. You could sit there with the stains on your shoes of the fresh earth of your own baby's grave and talk about your everyday concerns. You had stood the spade up against the wall outside there in the entry, for I saw it. I could laugh the worst laugh I ever laughed. I'm cursed. If I don't believe I'm cursed. I can repeat the very words you were saying. 3 foggy mornings and 1 rainy day will run the best porch fence a man can build. Think of it, talk like that at such a time. One had how long a birch to rot to do what was in the darkened parlor. You couldn't care. The nearest friends can go with Benedette. Come so far short, they might as well not try to go at all. No, from the time when one is sick to death, one is alone, and he dies more alone. Friends can make pretense of falling to the grave, but before one is in it, their minds return and make the best of the way back to life and living people and things they understand. But the world is evil. I won't have grief. So if I can change it, oh, I won't. There, you've said it all and you feel better. You won't go now, you're crying. The heart's gone out of it. Why keep it up? Amy, there's someone coming down the road. You! Oh, you think the talk is all? I must get out of here, somewhere out of this house. How can I make you? If you do, where do you need to go? First tell me that. I'll bring you back by force. I will.
Home Burial, written by Robert Frost and performed by Frank Shoestar.
Alright, so what we have seen now was a dramatic creating of the poem. I know that it's a little bit hard to understand it now, but while you'll be watching this, I'm sure that you'll have the actual poem in your hand, right? So what we have witnessed here is a dramatic dialogue, okay? It was not any kind of normal dialogue, but it was pretty intense, and you can feel the tension between the couple, the husband and the wife, while they're trying to express their grief of their death of their child. So there's a dramatic dialogue, right, between a husband and a wife. The name of the husband is Luke. The name of the wife is Amy. And the thing that they have in common is that death of their child. Alright, so moving a bit forward, let's go to the analysis of the actual poem. So, as I said before, it is a narrative poem where Frost describes a tense conversation between a rural husband and a wife whose child has recently died. As the poem opens, the wife is standing at the top of a staircase looking at her child's grave through the window. So, bottom line, we have a staircase, right? There's the wife on top, the husband at the bottom. The wife is next to the window from which she can see the graveyard, but the husband is at the bottom of the staircase, close to the door. The husband, as I just said, is at the bottom of the stairs. He does not understand why she's looking, what she's looking at, or why she has suddenly become so distressed. By distressed here, it means sad and sorrowful, because of course she just lost her child. So the wife resents her husband's obliviousness and attempts to leave the house. What we have here is that the wife is somehow resentful or hateful toward her husband, and she cannot understand how he's very comfortable or acting very comfortably after the death of their child. The husband begs her to stay to talk to him about the grief. He does not understand why she's angry with him for manifesting his grief in a different way. Inconsolable, by inconsolable we mean heartbroken, the wife lashes out at him. By lashes out we mean she starts screaming at him, and convinced of his apathy toward their dead child. Finally, the husband mildly accepts her anger. He does not accept it fully, but mildly. But the rift, which means the argument between them, remains. She leaves the house as he angrily threatens to drag her by force. Alright, so to recapitulate, we have a husband and a wife. Their child just died, right? So the wife, she's at the top of a staircase. Of course, we have a staircase. There's a window right next to the staircase. So she's looking through the window, and there's a graveyard outside. As for the father, he is downstairs next to the door. So the staircase somehow represents the distance or the gap of communication between the wife and the husband. For a more detailed analysis, I'm going to talk about the two tragedies that the poem somehow describes. So the first tragedy we have is the death of a young child, of course. The second one is the death of a marriage. So we can see from the tension between the husband and the wife that their relationship or their marital relationship was not on a very good stand. So the death of the child just somehow increased the tension that has already existed. So although the death of the child is the catalyst or the point that somehow brought up the couple's problems, the larger conflict that destroys the marriage is the couple's inability to communicate with one another. So here, again, we'll come back to the example of the staircase. It somehow represents the gap or the communication gap between the husband and the wife. So both characters, they can feel the grief of the loss of the child, but neither is able to understand the way their partner chooses to express their sorrow. Okay, so regarding the setting is something that I've already talked about. The staircase, the husband on the top, the wife on the top, the husband on the bottom, and the wife is looking through the window, the husband is next to the door, and none of them is trying to, or making an attempt to understand one another. Both of them, they want to be understood, but no one is making an attempt to understand the other one. Alright, the thing that I want to pinpoint here, this one. The husband, he has dealt with his sorrow in a more successful way, you can say, because we can tell from the setting of the poem, the fact that he's standing right next to the door downstairs, That means that as a farmer, he is more accepting of the natural cycle of life and death in general, but also chooses to grieve in a more physical manner. By physical manner, we mean that because he's the one who was digging the grave for his child, and the wife found that a little bit apathetic, like he's very indifferent towards the death of the child, and he didn't try to grieve on it, or maybe, maybe deal with it in a more emotional way, but he dealt with it in a more physical manner, as you see here, by digging the grave of the child. Ironically, the husband's expression of his grief is completely misunderstood by the wife. So for him, that's a way to express the grief, by digging the grave of his child. But for the wife, for her, that's just being indifferent, which was something that was misunderstood by the wife. So she views his behavior as a sign of apathy. Here by apathy, we mean indifference, or somehow who lacks interest or concern towards a certain matter. Okay, I know that I'm going to bore you a lot with the explanation because you don't have the poem right in front of you, but I'm sure while you'll be watching this video, you will have the poem, and also I'm going to send you the link for the dramatic reading so that while you have the poem in hand, or maybe reading it on your laptop, you can watch the video in parallel, and then you'll get to see or feel the tension between the husband and the wife, which makes this poem very extraordinary. Alright, I'm just going to pass through this because it's going to feel a little bit boring to you, but I'll go straight to the major themes of home burial. So, of course, the major theme that we have here is the mental breakdown of the wife. She is somehow mentally broken because she hasn't come to terms with the death of her child, and she still doesn't know how to accept it. And she's low-key jealous how her husband accepted it so quickly and has quickly gone back to his everyday life. And also, the second theme that I want to talk about here is the loss of the child and the collapse of the marriage. So, some of you may say that the marriage somehow collapsed right after the death of the child. But what we can tell from this dialogue is that the marriage somehow was collapsing before, but they were both just living in denial. But because of the loss of a child, somehow it came to the surface. So as a summary, I promise the last summary, the poem presents a family, right? A husband and a wife. And they are very disturbed and very distraught by the death of their son. While the husband accepts the biological sequence of life and the reality of that. So here we can see that the husband is more realistic. He somehow comes to terms with the death of his son, and he's ready to go back to his everyday life and to talk about his everyday concern. But for the wife, alright, so we said the husband, he accepted the reality of the death, but the mother is somehow traumatized with intense grief. By grief, we mean sadness, and that's the thing that's leaving her mentally ill. Moreover, the communication gap between them restricts them to express their sorrow. So both of them are feeling very, very sorrowful. But because of the communication gap that exists between them, none of them can come to terms or trying to overcome this gap, but rather they both choose to stay in their positions. And of course, we can see the staircase that as something that represents the communication gap between them. So none of them is willing to meet halfway or to talk it out or to deal with it in a more objective way. So the husband wants the wife to express her anger and anxiety, so throughout the poem he's asking her or begging her to talk to him and to talk to him about the grief instead of going to someone else and talking to other people about it. But she blames him for being so composed, for accepting the tragic stroke of life. Here we can say that she's feeling a little bit jealous why she's not there yet and how did he do it so quickly. And she views it for her. For some people, they might think of it as a person who's very realistic, who somehow found his way to go back to life. But for other people, they might think of it as a person who lacks the ability to emphasize or to empathize with someone else. And those people, we call them apathic people, which means they have no sympathy or empathy, but they have a lot of apathy. All right, for the last part, I will talk about the literary devices. I think we still have time, a little bit, 10 minutes? No? This is something that we have done. This is something that we have done before in the road not taken, and I'll just go through it quickly. So of course we have the alliteration, which is the repetition of a sound, right? So we could say in this line, the way you say they are in the sunlight of the cycle. So we have the repetition of the sound S. Imagery. Imagery is used to make readers perceive things with use of their five senses. So here we have the sense of sight. So here he saw her from the bottom of the stairs, again, the sight, and turned on him with such a daunting look. By daunting we mean scary. This one, not important. Of course, the metaphor is something that's very common among the literary devices. Okay, I want to pinpoint this part. Poetic and literary devices are two things that may seem similar, but they're not. But a few are only used in poetry. And some of these are the stanza, which I think you guys are very familiar with. So in this one we have 8 stanzas, right? There's a blank verse, which is a type of verse that does not follow any specific rhyme scheme. Again, unlike the road not taken. Repetition, which is something that we've done before, and it gives somehow a musical quality to the poem. And refrain, which is a line that's repeated at some distance. The difference between repetition and refrain is that repetition happens on the spot, like that, one after the other. But for the refrain, it happens at some distance, okay? Maybe between one stanza and then again another stanza. All right, for the analysis of the line, because again, we don't have a lot of time, I will try to send you the analysis of the whole poem line by line, right, for each and every stanza. I will send you the video of the dramatic reading and also, the summary, the analysis, the poem, the dramatic reading, and the lines analysis. All right, thank you guys for watching the video, and I hope that you have learned a lot from it. And I promise you that this poem is a very, very important poem for you guys to know as 9th and 10th graders. And also, once you get to read it more than one time or to watch the video, you'll get to see that it actually has a lot of tension to it. Alright, that would be it for today's class. Thank you very much. Stay safe and stay home and have a nice week. Thank you.